webinar is going to be over post-planning with technology. So some different ways that your school can use USA Test Prep during the post-planning season. Today we will do a brief presentation followed by a live demo. So you will be able to see all of the components from the presentation in live action. I do want to let you know there is a questions box on your control panel. So if you have any questions as I'm going through the presentation, feel free to type those in the box, and I will stick around after the presentation and after the demo to answer any questions that anyone may have. So feel free to ask your questions in that box. After the webinar, you will receive an email from me that will have a link to the presentation as well as a link to the recorded webinar. So if you need to reference those, they will be there, as well as all of my contact information, so you can call or email me directly with any questions or follow-up needs. Okay, so there are some different ways that you can use USA Test Prep for post-planning. And one way is through your content teams or grade levels, and they can get together and they can use our benchmarking tool. And with benchmarks on our site, that's going to give you access to our test bank of questions. So these teachers and teams can work collaboratively to build formal and informal assessments for the next year. So they can go ahead and start building a pre-assessment they may want to use at the beginning of the year, that they can use that data for the upcoming school year. Another way that your school can use USA Test Prep during post-planning is for administrators to can use our progress reports to be looking at school-wide information and progression through the standards to determine which domains and standards need to be targeted for the upcoming year. So this is a great time. This is the reflection time of the year. So these different teams can get together and decide, how do we need to shift our attention for next year? And we do know that every group of kids is different, but what can we learn and build upon from this last group that went through, so that maybe next year they can be more prepared for the areas that are going to need some more time for planning and instruction. So with team planning, this is a teacher homepage, and so teachers can get together and they can click on the benchmarks tab and then click on create new benchmark. And then they can give it a name. So I chose to name it Unit 1 2017-18. And then you'll see this option for a shared benchmark. And so all of our assignments on our website have the ability to be shared. And when you share an assignment, that just means that anyone else at your school that teaches that same content area as you or has a class built with that content will have access to the assignment. So your teams can be working together and they can pull, this page up on the Promethean or on the active board, and they can be working together to build an assessment. So with the benchmark tool, after you've selected the name and the content and your basic settings, you'll have two different choices. You'll have basic mode and custom mode. And I just wrote on this slide, basic mode is a great tool to use as a pre-assessment. It can be duplicated later and used again as a post-assessment, just like all of our benchmarks. So you can make one and then make a copy of it, make a duplicate copy, and then you can use it again. And basic mode is going to build an assessment that's based on actual test percentages. So our site takes your state's testing parameters and builds an assessment. And I'm going to show you what this looks like during the live demo. If you choose to do custom mode, this is going to allow teachers to have access to the test bank. So as a team, they can select the questions for each assessment. So if you know that you want to go ahead and build, if you're a team of lit teachers and you want to go ahead and build an informational text assessment, you can pull questions you would like to use. And I'll also show you that during the live demo. As far as your administrators, you can work together to look at progress monitoring and data analysis. So this is again on an administrator homepage. So at the top you'll see that I have teacher and admin privileges. So only if you have admin privileges will you see this blue button on a homepage. And if you don't see this blue button and feel like you should have, administrator access, you would just go to another admin in your school to add it for you. But you'll click on the admin button, and then this third tab over here is progress reports. So you would select progress report, and then you would select the content that you would like to look at. And whenever you choose the content, you're going to see some different tabs here. And the first one is school.rank. And so what this is doing is it's going to take all of the data from the entire school and compile it for you. And you'll see these different dots, and these dot colors represent different areas of mastery, different levels of mastery. And you'll see that for this first standard here, the students had a 39% accuracy. You'll see the number of questions they were asked and the number of questions they answered correctly. And so you can view it by standard, and then you can also view it by domain. And I just want to show you that I was talking about this dot rank, and what that means is when you see gray, that means that the students haven't interacted with content for that area. Pink is 66% or lower, yellow 66 to 85% mastery, and your green is 85% or higher. So that can give you, just by looking at this one screen, you can get an idea right away of student progression through the standards. There's also a gear icon here. This is where you can go in and manipulate the settings. So when you click on this, you'll see that you can pull data from different start and end dates. So if you want to look at, if it's, of course, it's May, so if you want to look at end of the year information, if you want to look at first semester versus second semester, so you might want to start your start date to the beginning of August to go to the beginning of January. Look at that data and then pull the next set of data to be January 1 to today. And that way you can look at the different semesters, or you can look at it month by month. And you can also determine where you want this data to be pulled from. So you can decide what types of questions you want to incorporate in this data search. So now I'm going to show you a live demo and show you what this looks like. All right, so I am logged in to a teacher homepage, and so I'm going to start by showing you the benchmarks for your content level or grade teams to work with. So on a homepage, you'll select the benchmarks tab and then create new benchmark. We'll call it Unit 1 2017-18, and we will do algebra. And then you can see I have the option to share it. And then I'm going to choose my test. So I'm going to select Algebra 1. And then these are just some default settings that can be manipulated for your students. I'm going to click Continue. And then I'm going to have this option for basic or custom. So I'm obviously going to be building a Unit 1 assessment, but I'm going to show you what you could do if you were building an entire pre-assessment for the year. So you can click on Basic, and when you click on Basic mode, you'll get this reminder that these questions are going to be based on actual test percentages. When I click on this link, it's going to open up, and this is based for Georgia. This is going to show me what the state of Georgia requires on the EOC, the end of course test for Algebra 1. So our site is going to take your state's testing requirements and show you how the breakdown is going to be for this test. So it's going to be different for every state. Then you can choose the length. Small is showing you it's only 13 questions or 13 points. So that's not going to give you a whole lot of data. So I would recommend going either large or full. So if you were to do a full one, you'll see that it bounces it up to 50. So now what this is going to do is it's going to build an assessment for me that's going to match those state parameters. It's going to be 50 questions. That's all I would have to do to build an assessment using basic mode. This is a great tool to use. Again, you create those pre-assessments and create assessments where you haven't went in and hand selected the questions. So it's a great way for you just to see how your students are progressing without you having control over which questions you selected for the test. But I'm going to show you custom mode. So when you click on custom mode, you'll see that you can then start choosing the domains you want to pull from. So if I'm on this Algebra 1 team and we're going to be looking at building a Unit 1 assessment, we might say that our Unit 1 is the real number system. That might be where we start the year. Then I can expand on my elements and I can start building an assessment. So I can start hand selecting questions that we want to use on our Unit 1 assessment. And you can always click load more questions. You can do a question preview, and you can be adding questions as you scroll through our question choices for each element. So you can be adding those. Once we're finished with this element, I can then open up a new element and start selecting new questions. I can pull from other domains if one encompasses more than just the real number system. So you do have open access to these resources. Once you're finished choosing your multiple choice or short answer questions, you then have an option to add favorite questions where you can author your own. You can do performance tasks or free response questions, and then of course you're going to get to preview the assessment that you've built. You can always save these as you're working, so you'll just click continue and skip to preview, and then you can click save. And if you're not finished with it, you can save your progress, and then you guys can take a lunch break, or you can work on it again tomorrow. It's whichever time you want to pick back up on it later in the day. You can save it, and then you can go in and edit and change it. So that's always available. So going back to the home page, I'm now going to show you from the admin side how you can be looking at progress and data for the end of the year. So you'll click on this admin button, and then the progress reports tab, and then you're going to select your content. So we'll look at 9th grade lit and comp. So this automatically pulls from the school dot rank. So you'll be able to scroll down and see how the students progress through the standards. You can also look at teacher dot rank. So any of your teachers who have classes built, you can look to see their progression through the standards. And you can also look at graphs, and this is information that's uploaded monthly, and so you can be looking at the progression. So this is a great tool to use for data team meetings. But going back to school.rank, this option is available for anywhere, but I wanted to show you the dot rank. So when you click on this link, it's going to give you that reminder of what these different colors represent on the site. You can also click on the gear icon, and this is where you can set up your date filters or your question source from where you want this data pulled from. So these are all resources and different filters that you can set to determine how you want to pull this information. So those are two different ways, one from the teacher level, one from the admin side, of how you can be using USA Test Prep at the end of the year as a reflection tool and then as a planner for the upcoming school year. If anyone has any questions, I will be sticking around for a couple of minutes after the webinar. You're going to be getting an email from me with my with my email address and my contact information. The email will also include a link to the presentation and a link to the recorded webinar. So if you need to reference those will be available in the email. And if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or email me, and I'm happy to help. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Have a wonderful day.